Hey everyone, and welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. This is Jonathan, your host, and here at RedBeard Outdoors, we talk about three main things: faith and family, fitness, and the outdoors, and how all three of those things incorporated into your life will make you more successful and happier living in this life. Whether you have a family of your own, whether you're looking to create a family, whether you are a sibling, a child, or you've been adopted into a family, whether literally or not literally, whatever, everyone has family. And if you don't, your group of friends need to become your family. You need to surround yourself with amazing people. Today, I have an awesome guest by the name of Nick Wingo. And Nick is the founder of Building Grit. He wrote the book. He's an amazing guy that talks about the struggles of PTSD, how he has dealt with that personally, and he aims to help other people and the spouses of people suffering from PTSD to live better, happier lives and to live more fulfilled, because PTSD is very debilitating. And me coming from a military family, I've seen how it can affect people if they don't get help, and then also how it can affect people if they do get help. And having a big community or even just a small family to support you through those struggles is a big deal and definitely contributes to your success in the future. So that's just kind of a brief interview there, or intro there to Nick. He's just an amazing guy. I'll let him talk a little bit more. But first, guys, I'm terrible at advertisements. I really am awful. I don't like to try and push things on you because I don't know you personally. Maybe I do, but for most of you listening, I don't know you personally. I don't know what your needs are, but I assume that if you're listening to my podcast, you love the outdoors, you love backpacking, camping, getting outside, having good gear, good nutrition, and you're always looking to tinker or get better at whatever it is that deals with faith, family, fitness, and the outdoors. So I have lots of links down below of companies that I work with that provide amazing quality products. I don't work with them or ask them to provide you with a discount until I've tried their product. And I make sure that it's something that works for me, because if it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to be trying to sell it to you guys. So if you're already in the market for any of the products that I'm going to mention, please go save some money, use a discount code, support these amazing companies, and help this podcast continue to grow. So one of the amazing companies is Absolute Aid. Absolute Aid is a CBD company, non-THC. It's just a company that wants to help you either feel less stress. So they have a relief formula, or a calm formula, sorry. They have another one that is for recovery that I prefer. On the days where I'm feeling a little bit more sore, or maybe my joints are a little achy, whatever it may be from a hard workout, I tend to lean towards that rather than taking ibuprofen or anything along those lines. It allows my body to recover. They also have a focus formula, so go check them out. They also have a balm that you can rub on for sore ligaments, tendons, muscles, whatever it is that you may need. Go check out Absolute Aid. The link's down below. Also, alpenfuel.com. Alpen Fuel is the best backcountry granola around, bar none, period. My favorite is the white chocolate cranberry, with a close second being either the chocolate strawberry or the caramel apple. But go and check out all their different flavors. They're all amazing. And you can also order Heather's Choice. Heather's Choice is all gluten-free. Very, very near and dear to my heart, so my gut's not torn up in the backcountry. Next time you go backpacking or hunting, go check out alpenfuel.com. Save some money on those backcountry meals. It's not cheap. I understand that, to get good quality nutrition in the backcountry. Go check them out. They're an amazing company, and save a little bit of money, right? And then on top of that, I work with First Form, and mainly First Form Outdoors, but they have the highest quality supplements out there. Now, again, I don't like to sell supplements necessarily unless you have a gap in your nutrition, or maybe you just like a pre-workout, but they're the best protein that I've ever had, highest quality, hands down, best customer service I've ever experienced with any supplement company. Go check them out. Use the link down below. get free shipping. And if you need something along supplementation, multivitamin, protein, and again, if you enjoy pre-workout, a little boost in the morning, go check them out. All the other links that I have are down below. And of course, check me out on Instagram, red.beard.outdoors. Shoot me a message or an email with a screenshot of the review that you're leaving for this podcast, and I'll send you something to mail out of my gratitude. Now, I've taken a ton of your time. Again, I'm terrible at advertising. I'm not trying to sell you stuff you don't need, but just go ahead and save money if you're buying things along these lines. Go check out these amazing companies. Now, without further ado, here's my awesome conversation with Nick Wingo from Building Grit. All right, I've got an awesome treat for you guys today. We've got Nick Wingo here, and I found Nick through a group that I work with First Form Outdoors and just First Form in general. And I love what he does, the community that he creates, and what he does for veterans and many other of our service members. So, Nick, give us a little rundown. Who are you?
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate you bringing me on the podcast. I'm stoked to be here. So my name is Nick Wingo. As you said, I was a firefighter for 20 years. I left on post-traumatic stress. I had a kind of rough career. Spent 10 years up in a mountain department and then moved down to the city for another 10 years where I became a paramedic and worked on the busiest ambulance unit of the city I was working for, and lost a total of 10 friends, 5 to suicide, and started to suffer some post-traumatic stress, some suicidal ideations myself. And so I actually had to go get treatment in Maryland for 35 days. And when I was there, I made the decision to not go back to that job. It just wasn't working for me anymore. It was causing me way too much stress, and I had no ability to sleep, and I was having nightmares and the suicidal ideations. And so it was a really rough go. And so since I separated, I wrote a book called Building Grit, How to Fight the Fires of PTSD and Come Out Stronger on the Other Side. That's just about my journey through my post-traumatic stress. That's a continual journey that you have to continue to work through. And I also started a nonprofit called Gifting Grit. And that nonprofit is to cover the costs of the deductibles for firefighters to get the mental health treatment they need. Just because when I went to get mental health treatment, I actually had to pay for my deductible out of pocket. And I just I don't want to see anybody be deterred from going to get treatment because of the cost. So yeah, that's just a quick rundown.
Yeah, no, definitely. So Building Grit, that's awesome. I love that. That's definitely a great way to put it. And, that's really rough. Having 5 friends, losing 5 friends to suicide, losing 5 friends in general, 10, like what you were saying, and then 5 to suicide is, that's a tough burden, man. That's, I can't imagine. I can't.
It's definitely heavy to carry. It's something that not a lot of people know about with the fire service. And so, people look at firefighters as these great, amazing people. They're doing amazing things, and they're there for you when you call 911, and they're the heroes, right? And what they don't realize is that they're suffering. They're suffering from all the death that they see and all the crap that they deal with and all the things that come up on a regular basis. And so, a lot of people, they think firefighter means, someone who goes out and fights fires. And I'm here to tell people that that's not the case. In fact, fires is such a small percentage of what we do. It's maybe, less than 10%, 20% of the calls, depending on where you are, what department you're working for. 80% of the calls are actually medical calls. So a lot of people don't understand that or realize that. And so you're seeing things that no human being really should ever really see, right?
Yeah, no, that is one thing that I would say that a lot of people definitely don't consider. You think firemen, you think paramedic, and then you think, policemen, that they're all 3 separate. But in reality, generally the first person to show up to a call is the fire department.
Yeah.
And that's because and from what I understand, you're certified as an EMS and other, paramedic, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the terminology. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. It's an EMT. There's
okay.
EMT basic and then EMT paramedic, and I'm a medic. So
okay, gotcha. Yep. So that puts you guys pretty much at every single call, that goes out there, and a lot of people don't realize that. And you're not the only fireman that I've heard talk about there being issues with PTSD. A lot of people, you think the police department, you think military. Not a lot of people think firemen. And I
Yeah.
could see, I love that you created the gifting grit, because that can be a barrier of entry for a lot of people, along with the social stigma of going to therapy,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. My
Mhm.
my wife and I'll just put it out there, and this is different, but my wife and I go to marriage counseling on a regular basis, at least once a month. And it's not for any, like, a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh man, what's going on? Like, hey, what's going on in Jonathan's life? I want to know about it. And in reality, it's not that. It's just having that third person there, that we can have an environment to where we can discuss things that may not be easy. It's a great way to build yourself up, in your case, or as a marriage. And so I think that needs to be a stigma that needs to get erased in society, because you don't have to have something wrong with you to go talk to an expert that can help you walk through your issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
these days, so many people think that, um, and it's getting better. It's starting to, like, people are starting to recognize and notice, like, oh my gosh, I should really work on my mental health. Right. So it's starting to kind of uptick. But I mean, we grew up in, our generation, it was like, suck it up, Sally, keep on moving forward, brush yourself off. And, men don't cry and all this bullshit. That's just not truth. Right. And so what happens is, like, at least in my situation, is I spent my whole life learning that emotions were not good, right? That I couldn't show emotion, that I couldn't emote at all, because that was a sign of weakness. And the reality is that emotions are important. In fact, recently they've discovered that they're starting to scientifically say, like, our intuition, our emotions, our guts, that thing that you feel, is actually a sixth sense. So it's actually one of our senses that we don't even recognize or notice. And so emotions and feelings are actual physical manifestations within our bodies. And so when we don't allow those physical manifestations to come out and to work through them, we bury them down. And so this is what I spent my whole life doing, is that I would, something would happen to me, or I would see something, I would be on a call or whatever, and my immediate reaction is to bury that thing, right? And then I never come back to it. I just leave it. And what happens is over time you shove so much shit down till you get to the point where the bucket overflows. Like, it's 20 years in the fire department, plus any damage I had, any trauma I had as a child that I've been burying, all that stuff came out, right? And that's where the suicidal ideation started. That's where the outburst, the anger outburst, the yelling at my kids, the fighting with my wife, all those things were a direct result of me showing my emotions down. And actually, in fact, this is how my emotions ended up finally coming out, was when my dad died. So I got taken offline from work because I was having some major issues. The last thing that kind of drew the line for me was somebody tried to stab me. And I was like, I'm losing my mind right now. I can't take it. So I leave work, and then just a couple minutes later, my dad dies. And I spent the next, he died October 31st. And I went into treatment February 5th of the next year. And I cried every single day for those months, because I had so much stuff that I had shoved down that I just couldn't hold it anymore. It was overflowing. It was overwhelming, all these emotions. And I had no idea what to do with them, right? I had no clue. I was so lost. I had no idea what to do. And so it's so important that we start to recognize and notice that, like, hey, if you have a mental health problem, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, like, hey, I'm not okay. I can't do this anymore. Right.
Yep. No, I get it. Definitely 100%. You know, there's a thing, and I don't know, like, I'm one of those people that is kind of like, suck it up, deal with it. But at the same time, like, there's a limit to that, because there's people out there that I know personally that, um, you try and help them so much and they don't want to be helped. And that's a sad place. That's a really, really sad place. But the people that do want help, and are willing to take that effort, to me, that is a version of sucking it up and dealing with it, and or manning up, or whatever the phrases that you want to deal, because you're using the tools that are provided to you, that in this case, for example, therapy or speaking with other people. Saying that you're not going to go to therapy when you need help is like saying, you've got a hammer in your tool belt, but you're going to hammer the nail in with your palm. it's a tool. It's something that helps you get through the situation that you're in. And if you're not using it, that's rough. And I think so, along with the social stigma, there's some people that may not have good insurance, or there's other people that maybe they don't have insurance, or whatever the situation is, they have to pay their deductible because they have a high deductible, whatever it may be. And I love the idea of doing everything that you can that's in your control, as Nick, and helping others to get over that hurdle. I mean, that's a barrier of entry alongside the social stigma. You personally can't get rid of the social stigma, but you can help them with the financial burden of going to therapy or seeing a doctor, whatever they need. And I do love that. I think that's a big deal, man. That's awesome. I hate that you had to experience that, but at the same time, you're using that experience to bless the lives of others, right? You're coming out of it stronger.
For sure. Honestly, man, like, just hearing you say, like, you hate that I had to go through it. I don't see it that way anymore. And so I used to. And so right now I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for what happened in my life so that I can make impact in this manner. Right. Because if these things would have not have happened to me, one thing I've learned is that the struggle, all the crap that we go through, all the difficulties, all the things that we experience in life are happening for us. They're happening just in a manner that is perfectly, because without those things, then things like this can't be born. Right. So if you look through and you see some of the greatest things that have been born, it's because people went through massive struggle in their lives. Right. And through that struggle, they were able to pull out and pull so much good out of it. And so I'm learning just to be like super grateful for what has happened, which can be hard, it can be difficult, right? It can be difficult to look back and say, I'm grateful for all this crap I went through. But it's just a change of mindset that I'm working on personally, of like, hey, I'm grateful for these things so that I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. That's having that mindset isn't easy to get to.
No,
And when you're in the midst of it, you probably weren't thinking, man, how am I going to help other people?
no.
But that allows you, once you work through your own stuff and you've seen what works, it allows you to help other people if you allow it. Like if you want that to be part of your life, which is something that you're doing. And again, that was a big thing for me, that I just, when I heard a little, just a brief part of your story, and then I started looking at your stuff, on Instagram, and chatting with you just a little bit, but mainly hearing that first story, it reminded me of so many other people that I know that have dealt with difficult things, and then they turn it around and they help, by blessing the lives of others with their knowledge, their experience that they've gone through, almost like cutting down I hate to say learning curve, but it is a learning curve, getting through, whether it be depression or whatever it is. There's a learning curve associated with it. And a lot of people fall off at the very beginning because it is difficult to even want to address. And to know that there's someone else that has gone through it can make a huge difference, and that can just help a ton. So I want to talk a little bit about. You incorporate everything that I talk about here in this podcast with family and faith, fitness, and the outdoors. I kind of want to talk a little bit about your family to start off with.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
mentioned that you had noticed, in your journey, that you were kind of starting to fall off the deep end because you noticed that you were getting upset with your kids, arguing with your wife. I think everyone's been there. I know I have. I was just there yesterday with my son. Like,
Yes. Yeah, it happens, man.
right. And
It happens.
but tell me a little bit more about your family, because obviously you care about your family, and you guys just took an
Yeah.
awesome trip.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about your family, and how many kids do you have? How long have you been
Yeah.
married?
Absolutely. So my beautiful wife, her name is Desiree Wingo. We've been married for 15 years in May, so we've had a go at it. We have two beautiful kids. We have our son Owen, who is 10, and then our daughter Annalise, who is 8. Um, they're my world. They really are. My wife, she's amazing. She she actually had some major trauma from a family member when she was a child. And so she's had a massive amount of things that she's worked through. And so together we've had this really difficult thing to maneuver through. And so it's been a heck of a ride. And we're both going through counseling, and then also we're meeting together in counseling, right? So we can work through. I mean, we're also going to counseling on a monthly basis, actually twice a month. because we notice how important it is to work on our marriage and to be strong together so that we can show up for our kids. Well, because what we've learned is that if we're off, if we're not good, then our kids they're directly affected. Like our kids are a direct reflection of whatever you, excuse me, let me just rephrase this. Your kids, anybody's kids, they are a direct reflection of how you are acting in your life. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And so, we've noticed and recognized like, hey, we need to be there for our kids and show up in the best way that we can, because this family is so important for me. It's God and then my family right away. It's the way it is. I'm there for them and they're there for me. I mean, my wife, she held up my house for 35 days while I got treatment. I mean, man, what she did for me is amazing, and looking back, all the things, all the hurt that I caused her because of my actions from my post-traumatic stress, from my experiences. She's a saint. She's a saint. She's amazing. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting right here talking to you. The building grit wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for her.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, another staple to a lot of the majority of successful men that either have their own businesses or are able to go out on extended hunting adventures, whatever, backpacking trips, things like that. There's always a woman in the background that's willing to support them. And it's not, they don't see it as a burden, right? That's a big key with marriage, is that it is still two individuals. And it's not 50-50, it's 100-100,
Absolutely.
because it is, each person individually has to come together and put, and it's, I can't remember the formula or where I heard it, but basically it's not an addition formula when you add the two of you together. It's a multiplication or even an exponent or something along those lines, where it magnifies, your marriage magnifies as you work together. It's not just a simple addition problem. It's not 50 plus 50, but I love that you mentioned, you bring her up, that she has helped you through this, and that the kids are direct reflection. And I think that's why me and my son bump heads so much, because he's so much like me, and I get so frustrated. And I realize like it's my job to help walk him through, because I have those same emotions, the same things that he's dealing with, but he's 7 and I'm 29. So I've had 22 years to figure those emotions out, and I need to help him with that. So,
Sure.
yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And then tell us a little bit about this trip that you guys just took. It looked pretty awesome. You're driving around in Tesla.
Yep. So my Tesla got wrecked. So we had a Tesla that got totaled on the highway. Somebody got pushed out in front of us, and actually the person who caused the accident took off. And I had never thought that car was like this transition in life representation for me, of leaving the fire service and stepping into some other things. And when I was stripped of it, I was like, man, this is the thing that was my representation of my change. And I was so devastated. But it turned into this beautiful thing, because we actually ended up getting a car that was a year newer and less miles and nicer and more upgrades and better looking. And it was up in Seattle, Washington. And so we took the opportunity to, we flew out to Seattle, and we drove the Pacific coast. So we drove up into Forks, Washington, and then we drove all the way down the 101 to the 1, and then we drove down the 1 to Santa Barbara, and cut across to Vegas from there. And it was this beautiful, every time I take time to slow down and just go take in this, God is an artist. And so he created this beautiful world for us. Like everything that is around us was designed just for us. And so to go and see the beauty within that, it's just, there's something about it, to just see that beauty and be in it, and just all the feelings and the smells and the sights. And, we saw birds and, elephants. And one beach we went on, there was dolphins. And this lady who lived there for 30 years said, there's never been dolphins in this cove in the 30 years I've lived here. And so it was this really beautiful, amazing thing that we were able to connect together and just be together as a family. And, one thing I want to say about this is that I've learned, for me and my family, one of the most important things is to slow down and just do something present together, right? And so that's why we did that, was so that we could just slow down and be together. It's so important in family. It's so important to do those things.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that as well. It's a lot of people, I talk a lot about hunting, but I don't think that people understand why I enjoy it so much. It has nothing to do, well, I can't say it has nothing to do. I do love bringing meat home. I love the
For
experience
sure.
of respecting the animal, making sure I've done everything that I can to make sure the animal goes down as ethically as possible. But it's all the journey before that, the hiking in, the backpacking, the walking around for days, not seeing an animal, or at least not the animal I can hunt, and just enjoying soaking in nature,
Yeah.
being unplugged, not having electronics, and being out there. And then even more so when I'm with my family. Now my family doesn't like hiking as much as I do. They enjoy, they'll go for 3 mile loops, maybe five. Um, but they do love getting outside, and you could just see the difference in the kids when you're out there, when you're not stuck to screens, when you're not in school all day, and when you're outside. There's a difference. And so I haven't got to drive the full West Coast. I'd love to go to Oregon, and see the coast
Beautiful.
up there
It's
in Oregon.
beautiful. Oh my gosh, so beautiful, man. The cliffs off. I mean, you're literally driving in. There's parts where you're driving in the redwoods. So these massive trees, I mean, it stood there with my arms all the way out to this tree, and it's still, can't even, it's still bigger than that. There's a tree up there 26 feet across, which is just
Wow.
insane. It's insane
Yeah.
to even fathom. But to be in that, I agree with you. To be outdoors and and there's something about like the energy within the woods, with the outdoors. Like moving water, it has charges. It has
Mhm.
positive charges, and your body, you absorb those. You absorb that energy from nature. And so it's so reviving. And I mean, for me, and it sounds like for you too, it just fills my soul.
Yeah, no,
Legitimately
definitely.
fills my soul.
Definitely. I'm reading a book right now called The Comfort Crisis. And the part that I'm in right now, he's up in Alaska hunting caribou with these two guys that he describes as like wild men. Like, they just they live in the outdoors. And he is an office worker, normally in a cubicle, and he finally just got to a point where he was like, I need to get out and stress myself a little bit more than just the stresses of answering emails. And he gets out there and he was like, you don't realize how easily you can become bored when you don't have any of the distractions. And he was like, I was just sitting there for 10 minutes, and those 10 minutes felt like an eternity. The first 10 minutes of not having, no one's talking, they're glassing. He doesn't have any binoculars. So he's kind of like, well, what do I do? And he was like, he started reading all the labels on his backpack and his food, and like, just and he just breaks it down so intensely. And I think that's something that I enjoy so much, is just being able to go out and pick apart the landscape, seeing sunrises, sunsets, how animals interact with their environment, hearing all the sounds, the breeze, like just all those things. It's amazing. And I love that you brought up, God's an amazing artist. It's crazy to me to think that science is involved with all of the stuff that go, like, up to the color of the sky, the leaves changing colors, like all that stuff is a science art project.
It
It's
totally
just,
is. It
it
totally
blows
is.
me away. It blows me away. And I mean, I don't even know how else to describe that, but I would love to do that trip that you guys did. And I think it's awesome that you didn't just fly out and get a new car.
No.
Your wife didn't fly out and get a new car. You turned it into a family experience where you guys flew out and drove down the coast together. I think that's amazing. Um, yeah. What do you think your favorite part was?
I don't know, man. There was so many amazing things. Just, I mean, just seeing all of it, right? Just seeing all the things. I mean, some of my highlights was seeing the elephant seals on Elephant Seal Beach, going into the redwoods and just seeing those massive trees, seeing the Smith River, which is actually the clearest river in the United States of America. I mean, you could see the bottom. I mean, all the way across the river was wild. Glass Beach in Fort Bragg. That was amazing. Yeah, there was just so much. There was so many things. I mean, going through Big Sur. I mean, you're talking, big, massive mountains down into the ocean, 100-foot, 200-foot cliffs all the way down into the ocean. I mean, driving up that road, there's a couple places where there's like this little bump. It's like this big, right? And then it's like 150-foot sheer drop. There's like a foot of land, and then whoosh, straight down. Pretty wild. You're looking out your window. I was right at the passenger at one point, and I was looking down like, holy crap.
Right.
Crazy. Super cool though. Super cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then, so through your journey, and I've noticed you do a lot with fitness, you yourself have lost a significant amount of weight, right? If I understand that correctly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
About 60 pounds. I was originally about
Wow.
280 pounds, and now I'm like 220, 225.
Wow. That's awesome, dude. That is pretty sweet. Talk to us a little bit about that. What's fitness like for you? Is this something that has always been around for you? Did you pick it up to kind of cope with the stress, the depression, the things that you were going through, or is it kind of always been in, your entire life?
Yeah. So originally I was an athlete in high school. And so I was actually really lean. I was, 218 pounds of power lifter. Actually, I held up until recently, I held a state record for powerlifting in high school. I bench pressed 405 pounds at 218 pounds. And I was deadlift 650, squatted 650 as well.
Wow.
And so I was a powerlifter. Yeah, that was where my base was. But I jacked up my knees and a couple other joints from lifting so heavy. And so I kind of fell off, and I just started gaining a shit ton of weight. Fire department, drinking beer, not working out. And I went from, I stopped working out for the most part, probably when I was in like 21, 22. I would lift, but not like I should have been, not consistently. And let's see, probably about 3 years ago now, I had enough. I had enough of the weight. I had enough of feeling like crap. And so I made a commitment to start counting macros. And when I started counting macros, man, it changed my life. Got super lean, got the leanest I've been, 220 pounds, like 7% body fat. And it was, for me, it was just recognizing like, if I don't fix this, I'm not going to be around for my kids. Like one of the biggest things I was noticing is that, I'm 38 now, and playing with my kids can be difficult when you're overweight and out of shape. And so, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they want to play. Right. And so I'm like, man, I got to get back into shape. I got to get back into, getting my diet under control. Once I did that, the big thing now for me has actually been incorporating a lot more of stretching and, just a lot more movement stuff, a lot more body weight movements, and not lifting as heavy. I still get my days where I'll lift, but nothing compared to what I used to do. I mean, I don't put more than 225 pounds on the bench press anymore. I just, I don't pick up more than 70-pound dumbbells. I don't need to anymore. So that's where my fitness journey is right now. Right now, I work out in the mornings. Actually, that's part of my morning routine. Is I get up, I do my breath work, I go work out, I sit in the sauna, do a meditation, and then I cold shower every day. It's perfect. Works out great.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny to me too, because I went down that rabbit hole of wanting to do powerlifting, and I just kind of, for you actually competed. For me, I was convincing myself that even though I was getting fat, I was getting strong. Mm-hmm. And so, and I think a lot of people can get into that, but I do love that you hit that kind of rock bottom where you're like, all right, I want to be around for my kids. This is more than just, enjoying some beers with the buddies or, being a little out of shape. Like this is to a point where I want to be able to run around with my kids and enjoy my kids while I can. And I think that's a huge, huge deal that I don't think a lot of people realize. I think that a lot of people go through life, and I'm starting to understand this, that most people are sick, whether it be mentally sick because they're dealing with some sort of depression, anxiety, something along those lines, or they're not physically healthy. They're physically sick. And that doesn't have to mean that you have the flu or that you have anything else. It just means that you're not at your optimal point that you need to be at. Now, for grandma, for example, that wants to go hang out with her grandkids, you need to be at a different fitness level. Some people don't like that word, but fitness health level than someone who is wanting to go run a marathon. It's all based on your goals. And like for you, for example, you don't want to lift heavy anymore because you're not trying to power lift.
Yeah.
You just want to be around for your kids and your grandkids. And so you do, you mentioned breath work and body weight stuff with some weightlifting in there as well. And so you're finding what works for you and what you can do sustainably, but also with the goal in mind that you have of being around for your kids. I think that's awesome. And I think that is very understated with social media the way that it is. Everyone wants to have the 6-pack abs or the chiseled chest or no hair or whatever your ideal is.
Right.
Instead of looking at it and saying, hey, this is what my goal is. My goal is not your goal. I want to go do this. You want to go do that. I'm going to compare me to me of yesterday rather than me to you.
Well, and let's be honest, the 6-pack is it's not sustainable. Like that's one of the things that people don't understand is that, I've had a 6-pack and I can tell you right now that getting to the point where I'm super chiseled, that shit sucks. Like it is not fun. But what I can do is I can maintain that 12% body fat where you can kind of see my abs, but I'm not super ripped, right? I'm just not built that way. My body's not built like these dudes who can just hold their 6-packs indefinitely. I've tried it and it's not fun. It's not fun for me. And so just remember, I think it's important to state like, your body type may not be the one that's going to have this chiseled freaking ripped abs. Sometimes it just doesn't happen that way.
Yep, exactly. And someone said it best when they said, don't compare your life to someone else's highlight reel, which is what social media is. No one's going to post their crappy stuff unless they're looking for sympathy, right?
Yeah,
for the most part. I think now it's becoming a lot more accepted for people to share their weaknesses in a respectful way, which it's something that you talk about a lot, but you're not asking for sympathy. You're asking for, this is real life. How does this apply to whoever's reading this post, right? How, you want to help other people to become better. And so, but yeah, I definitely agree that it's important to take fitness and put it into your life based on your goals. And you seem to be doing that. Now you do something, I've been seeing you do something with your stretching where you're like doing a handstand on a seat with what is that?
So I've been getting in the Wim Hof method, and one of the things that Wim Hof does is he does the handstands, and the reason being is the blood flow to your head. The blood flow to your brain is supposed to help with all kinds of things. And so my wife is she's certified in yoga. She does yoga faith, so it's a Christian-based yoga. And so I've been working with her on doing headstands and some of these other things that I would usually not ever do. So it's been interesting and fun. It would be hilarious for some people to see me going through my yoga stretching, but it's been good, man. Like I've gotten to the point now where when I first started stretching, I hated it. Like I loathed it. I was like, oh, I don't want to stretch. It sounds terrible. And now every night, like it's my jam. 15 to 30 minutes of stretching. It just feels so good. And I'm really starting to understand. Actually, one of my goals this year is to be able to do the splits. And so I'm working in that direction currently. 225-pound man doing the splits. That's where I'm headed.
Yeah, you can keep that. I like the basic like IT band stretching and your back stretches and stuff like the very, very surface level yoga stuff, but definitely not the splits. I'm not there yet. I don't know if I ever will be.
The reason I started doing it is because I'm a lot of these guys that that are, that have gone through, some of these guys that have gone through and really had a huge healing in their life has been through stretching. And so that's when I was like, maybe I should start to stretch more. And I'm actually starting to notice like some of my ailments, my back pain, my knee pain is starting to actually relieve with stretching. And so if you're someone who's got, You're not quite there yet, but as you age, as you start to approach that 40, man, things start to hurt real, more and more and more, especially if you've had any type of injuries. And so I've had a lot of previous injuries that I'm trying to work through. And so stretching has been huge for me. So huge for me.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's yeah, I've incorporated a lot more stretching than I used to. And it does help. It helps a lot. And I'm not naturally flexible by any means at all.
I feel you.
Yeah, I'm wound up tighter than a freaking rubber band ball. But I just I think it's awesome that no shame in saying you're going to go do the splits. Again, that's just, to me, it just oh man, that blows my mind. I can't even imagine. I can't. But if it works for you, then you do it. Do it with pride. But and I'll cheer you on. It's like if you told me you're going to go run a marathon, I'll cheer you on, but I'm not running it with you.
I'm not running a marathon, bro. The only thing I'm running from is a bear.
There you go.
And even then, I'm not likely running because I probably have a gun. So
exactly right. Exactly. So, what are some of your favorite things to do with your family, whether that be fitness related, outdoors related? What are some of your favorite things to do with your kids and your wife?
Actually, one of our biggest things is going out and hiking. We're huge into getting out and doing hikes. Being in Colorado, there's so many day hikes you can go out and do, and so that's one of our biggest things. We're into adventure, anything new. We just like to go and do new things and see things outdoors. It's our jam. Being out in nature, being connected. It just really makes us feel alive.
That's awesome. So I've been to Colorado, not a ton, but I know there's a lot of exploring that can be done up there, and I'd love to visit up in Colorado someday because there's just so much that I hear about, and I've only been to like Denver and then driving through Colorado, but yeah, there's definitely some beautiful mountains up there and things to go explore. It's I don't know, it just going back to the outdoors, like it's hard to put, it's one of those things that's intangible. Like I know there's science behind it. You get the sun rays, your body builds up vitamin D, like all this other stuff. But there's something about just getting outside. Like I can't explain it. And that's why I always say what I do, whether it be on my, on Instagram story every day or at the end of my podcast, because you really do have to get outside in some form, almost on a daily basis. And I would say the only exception should be if it's like a blizzard, or even then, like I like to go out and have fun in the backyard with the kids. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But like just getting outside, there's just something I can't put words to it. Like between the crazy awesome hikes and seeing the coastline to simply just going to the park with your kids and being present with your kids, not being the parent. Yes, I'm calling people out that sit on the bench and twiddle their thumbs on their phone while their kids are over there playing on the playground. Like I love to see, and I know I've surrounded myself with good people when I see my fellow parents that are chasing their kids on the playground. They're not sitting on their phones on the bench or whatever. And so for me, that's people overcomplicate it. I feel like you can just simply walk around the block with your kids, let them get out on their scooters, their bikes, go for a jog, race them, things like that just get the blood flowing and get outside a little bit. It does something to the soul that you just can't describe until you've been there and you've made it a consistent part of your life. And then there's a day you can't get outside. Like today I'm feeling it. Usually I go for my walk jog around lunchtime, and today was just so slammed. Like I talked to my wife as I was getting off work and I'm like, I haven't made outside today. Like I need to get out there and do something. Like it's a bug. But anyway, so what I just want to kind of ask you here to wrap up a little bit. What's your goal with building grit and giving grit? What's like your kind of your vision? What do you see? Where do you see this going?
Yeah. So actually it's funny you asked that. It's something that's evolving currently. Excuse me. And so building grit, gifting grit, it is all about It's all about helping firefighters get the help that they need, right? That's the biggest thing. But what I'm learning is the piece that is really important to me is the marriage. And so a firefighter's marriage suffers significantly. And so the end goal is actually marriage retreats with me and my wife for, for first responders, for police officers, for veterans, for, the people that serve us. It ultimately would be marriage retreats that give those people both the tools that they need to work through the trauma. Because let's be honest and real, the whoever the person is that's working, the spouse is suffering just as much, right? Because they're dealing with the outbursts, all the stuff that falls out onto them. And so often they get forgot about, like the spouses get forgot about completely. And so my goal is to really touch on those marriages and really help those marriages heal. So that's the direction we're headed.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really like to hear that, because again, I know there's resources out there, but having someone that has gone through it, didn't just go to school about it, but went to the school of hard knocks, like real life, and lived through these things, and also having your wife on board, that's a game changer, because that'll help people, again, going back to the whole idea of the learning curve, getting over the hurdles that you guys went through without them having to actually go through, because that's tough, like, because you can get to a certain point where you're just ready to give up because you think that there is no end. And then you've been there multiple times where you and your wife were just, you're done. One of you is done, or both of you is done that day. And it's not even that you intentionally mean to, but as like a firefighter, I can imagine you're just serving all day to the point where when you come home, you have nothing left to give.
Yeah.
And of course, your wife's been giving all day to the kids and to neighbors or whoever else needed her. And she needs from you now, and you need from her, and neither of you have anything to give.
No.
And that just that's a recipe for disaster. You can't fill someone else's cup when you have nothing to give, and vice versa,
Absolutely.
and that's
So
why,
much truth in that.
yeah, that's why I'm a firm believer of charging your own batteries, being selfish at times. People will call it selfish, but taking that time to have your own hobbies and things that can better yourself so that you can in turn serve other people and not feel like it's a burden to serve especially your closest, your loved ones, your wife and your kids. And so I think that's amazing, because I mean, just the idea of having a group of people together that are dealing with the same situations and can be vulnerable to each other and talk through these situations that they're all experiencing, and having you as kind of that guide to get them through it, because you've been through it and you're going through it. You're still, you didn't just say, oh, okay, it's done. Like you said, you're still going to marriage counseling. You're separately going to counseling because you want to keep that. You don't want it to start unraveling. You want to make it stronger. And so that's really awesome. And then what would you say, what gets you out of bed every day? What, if you had to put one thing down, or if what's the one thing that gets you out of bed every single day, that drives you to do what you do?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Mine is just my love for people. I just love people. I love to be there for people. Like, I like to show up for people. I like to, include my first one I show up for is my wife. I read the Bible to my wife first thing when I wake up, and then I go in and I transition in my 2 hours of my time. And so for me, it's all about the connection with people, man, because like we have one shot at this life, and all the stuff, all the things, they're cool. Yeah. Like the Tesla, it's awesome. It's a great fucking car. I love it. Love driving it. It's fun. Right. But at the end of the day, that car is nothing without the people in it. Right. Like the drive down the coastline is not the same without the 3 other people in the car with me. This podcast is not the same without us sitting in front of each other. Right. And so for me, it's all about connection.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. I love asking that question, because it peels away the layers for people, and deep down inside, like you can tell that you genuinely want to serve others. You want to help other people and to build those connections and to help them live their best lives as well. And I mean, that just reverberates off of you and what you're building. And I can't wait to see where you take this. I can't wait to see, 5-10 years from now, you taking these people on these retreats so that they can in turn share with other people. And I mean, I don't have anything else to say about that, except that I'm excited to see where you're taking this, man, because I think it's an underserved community that serves so much, you know,
Absolutely.
and they definitely deserve more. So
I
that's
appreciate that.
awesome. Yeah, no, of course, man. And I grew up in a family of military family. I didn't personally serve, but everyone in my family has served. And and my grandpa who retired, he told me, he was like, I'm sending you to college. He was like, you're not going in as a grunt. He was like, you either go in as an officer or don't. I was like, I trust your judgment, because I was on the borderline. I was like, I'm going to go in possibly, but anyway, ended up not doing it. But I've seen how it affects so many lives. My uncles, my dad, my grandparents, just on that side of things. And so I appreciate what you've done, even though I didn't live in that community, and what you're doing for those that have served us. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your time today, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us about, building grit, giving grit. Where can people find you if they have more questions, or they want to read your book, or they want to
Yeah.
give?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's super simple. My name's Nick Wingo, NickWingo, and you can just find me at nickwingo.com. It's got all my social on it, all the things that we have going on, a little bit about the the nonprofit, and so the book, the link for Amazon is there. You can find all of it there.
Awesome. Cool deal. Yeah, you guys go check him out. He's an awesome human being, and he's down to earth, not looking for anything, not any fame or anything like that. He just wants to genuinely serve people and help people, and especially the community that has served and given so much. So thanks again for coming on, Nick. And you guys go check him out. I'm going to leave the links down below. And of course, as I always say, get out, live your life, and love it. All right. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed being a part of that conversation. Nick is an amazing guy. I'll leave the links down below where you can find him for his book, on Instagram, or anywhere else you want to check him out. But please go check out his stuff. If you know anyone that is dealing with PTSD and needs a community to join in, definitely check Nick out and send them his way. Hope you guys have an amazing day, amazing weekend. Spend it with your loved ones. Get outside, and of course, live your life and love it.